Welcome back, everybody, to the Derby City Fandom podcast. Today, we are going to be wrapping up Andor Season 2. Now, gentlemen, welcome back, first off.
What's up, guys?
Hey, fellas. Long time no see.
Yes, long time no see. Well, we have hit, I guess, the beginning chunk of the Star Wars content for the year. I do believe there's more coming out later on, but Andor Season 2, I think, was the big ticket item for most people this year. How do y'all like it? Before we go into ratings.
I enjoyed every minute of it.
I really love the ending. I think I love the second half. I'm a big fan. I will admit, I think the season started a little too slow for me. I know Colin disagrees. Kenny may disagree with me as well. But the whole second half, the ending of it, chef's kiss.
Yes, and I will kind of jump Colin's bit here a little bit. The last 6 episodes did rate higher collectively than the first 6, so you are correct. The internet agrees with you. But Colin, where did Andor Season 2 land ratings-wise?
Let's see. So Andor Season 2 IMDb had it at a whopping 8.4 out of 10. And Rotten was a 97%.
Yep. I was going to say 8.4 is way too low. I mean, I don't know about 97, but yeah, it's definitely been 90s.
Yeah. So I think what Andor Season 2 does for me that a movie hasn't made me do in a while, or a show hasn't made me do in a while, is go watch the movie that I guess technically started all of this. So I am meaning to go rewatch Rogue One, especially now that timeline-wise, I think like 5 years has officially passed, and that was the timetable for when Andor Season 1 started. So Season 2 ends basically with them going into Rogue One. Maybe like, sub like a couple months or so here or there, but whatever.
No,
Space time.
No, I
it's
think
pretty immediate. Like
Yeah.
you see Andor leave, spoiler, I guess, towards the end. You see him leave, and he's going to meet the guy over what's the planet called?
We'll have to look it up. I'll look it up. But you're right, Colin.
The Rings of Kafrene.
Yep.
I am a nerd. It took me a minute. I apologize.
No, you got there. You got there. Faster than I did with everything.
What was his name? Tevik or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny you said that, Kenny, because I immediately watched Rogue One like the next night after finishing Andor Season 2. And I still, to this day, think Rogue One's probably my favorite Star Wars film.
Mm-hmm.
And millions of Americans have to agree with us because it was the top trending thing on Disney Plus. Well, maybe second behind Andor Season 2, but it was definitely first or second.
Sure, yeah. Because that's Rogue One being just kind of like the nice little bow on top, I guess, for all of Andor. But yeah, do we want to get into, I guess, the plot in general, or what would you all like to discuss first?
Yeah, we can talk plot. I'm down.
You want to start I guess we can start the first few episodes if someone wants to recap.
Jump into it. Yeah, go for it. Kenny, lead the way.
Alrighty. Well, in our first handful of episodes, I'm just going to pull up my notes real quick just so that I don't bumble too much. We do get a little bit of a time skip here. Like the whole big thing on Ferris just went down, and we see Cassian doing his usual spy stuff, but he's impersonating a test pilot, I believe.
Yes, to get one of the new, I forget what type of vehicle it was.
It was a TIE fighter of some form.
Yeah, but it is a newer model.
Yeah,
that they had created, and so he had somehow infiltrated into becoming a pilot, I guess. And so you see him enter that particular aircraft, and like a beginner pilot, you push forward, that goes backwards.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, That was kind of funny to watch, and of course, it's attached by
by the cables.
by the
Yeah,
cable, right?
just completely messing that thing up.
Oh yeah,
But we do see more of Big Sprasso and Wilman
yep.
later on,
Just hanging out, farming.
just doing their thing on their little farm planet, whatever they call it. Uh, but yeah, then we also get, I guess, our first mention of what we will learn later on, being all the stuff going on with Gorman, Planet Gorman, and the mining activities there.
Mm-hmm.
And it wouldn't be Star Wars if there wasn't just a shootout towards the end of this of the first episode. So
Oh yeah.
we do get some fun with there. Uh, and then after Cassian gets taken hostage, is that when he's transported to Yavin at that point, or is that before?
He kind of like crash lands on it because he's trying to meet somebody.
Yeah.
He's trying to meet up with like some rebels. He kind of not doesn't crash land, but he deliberately goes there because he's trying to meet up with like a rebel group. It was super confusing, which is part of the reasons why like the first few episodes I wasn't the biggest fan
Yeah.
of. But we can get to that here in a minute.
There's a handful of political stuff going on in the background too, with Mothma's daughter getting married off and them trying to do policy stuff, which we've gone over with Jake is not really his forte in the Star Wars. But we do get them going through all the rigmaroles of political marriages in the Star Wars universe. So if you ever wanted to know what that looks like, there you go. But we see more of our boy Luthen. Man, Luthen's my favorite character.
I
I'm
know.
glad that he managed to, spoilers, last as long as he did.
Dude's a boss.
Yeah. I feel like the writers knew that too. They're like, oh, Skarsgård is too good to kill him off early. We got to keep him around.
Well, we can talk about that a little bit later too, because I was reading something that originally they were supposed to have like 4 or 5 seasons of Andor. So I'm very curious of why they opted not to do that and just stuck with 2. I'm not mad at it because the 2 seasons that they made were phenomenal, but we could have saw a little bit more of them. Kenny is my point.
hmm Okay, well, I guess from there we do have, I guess, like a little dinner party thing with Didra, Cyril, and Edie. How do you pronounce it?
I don't
Edie.
know.
Yeah, the mother,
Cyril's mom.
Cyril's mom. Yeah, and that goes about as well as you think it does.
Yeah.
So we got some more stuff going on in the background. Cassian arrives. He does the usual stuff, causes havoc, kills some stormtroopers, and bounces again. We do see Mothma and Luthen interact with each other. So that's always fun to see them go at it. And then Mothma just kind of like quietly kind of gets somebody to go take care of a problem.
Yeah.
Because there might be a defector, there might be a spy amongst the rebels, so that person gets dealt with.
I mean, he was basically a childhood like best friend. Like they've known each other since childhood,
Mhm.
right? And so she kind of took that hard, and we see that when I guess the reception takes place, and
Mhm.
we see that whole dance that she does and the music that comes along with that, which I thought was honestly a really cool scene. Like the way I took it was like you literally just like sold out your childhood best friend. The Empire, air quotes, is potentially going to catch on to your bank accounts essentially and see that you are funding the rebellion essentially, right? And so
Yeah.
you're like your world is slowly crumbling around you and your daughter is being given away that you're not okay with, but you're trying to do it because you already made a deal with somebody so that they could, you know, help you with your
With your goals.
fraudulent
Yeah.
bullshit, you know. So like her whole dance and everything, like the cool thing about that song was,
A cool beat to it.
It did.
well, yes, obviously, but the song that was played was actually a step up, I guess. So the song that we first hear that is the very first episode when he goes into the club. Do y'all remember that from season 1? And he goes
Hmm.
into the club and he's freaking going around the bar. And that's basically
Mm.
when all that Ferric shit goes down. So that song that you hear in the very first episode, that is a step down from that song that Mon Mothma is playing
I didn't know that.
at her wedding. So I thought that was really cool to find out. I just found that out the other day. And I was like, oh, I'm going to mention that in the podcast. So I did. Here I am.
Yeah. I don't think I would have noticed that if you hadn't mentioned anything. So that's a fun
I
notation.
think I would have noticed it eventually, but like not right away. Like kind of like what you're saying, though.
Hmm.
I do have that kind of ear.
So you ready for the debate? The big debate that everyone's waiting for? The first few episodes. Let's
Go ahead.
kinda do a
Go
really
ahead.
recap.
Start us off, Jake.
All right. I don't want to say that I disliked it because that's not true. I liked the whole season. I thought it was a really good watch. But the first few episodes, at parts, seemed confusing to me. And at parts seemed slightly boring. And I think it was just I would argue it's a missed opportunity.
Okay.
And the parts that I really loved had to deal with rebellion. And there was some small scatterings, like the dance scene was cool. And I understand that there's kind of drama that needs to happen to build that up. But man, it just seemed like the first 2 or 3 episodes, there was a lot of like gossip, relationship drama that I just frankly did not care for.
Well, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, they're building up Mon Mothma for her character, I guess, to make more sense in later things, like in Rogue One or whatever she comes in next.
Right.
So that's part of it. Also, I guess a question I have for you is, if it wasn't released in like a 3 episode chunk, would that have made a difference to you, do you think? Because I get the feeling when you watch those 3 episodes all at once.
I don't think so. Once again, I stand by my argument, and I'd be curious on Colin's thoughts on this. Was I respect the need for character development, but I look back on those episodes, I'm not for sure what it brought to the overall like rebellion plot. Like, what did that wedding have anything to do with anything other than like maybe an excuse to get certain characters together? But it seems
That's
like,
probably was it.
but it seems like they spent a lot of time, a lot of screen time, like showing this wedding, and then fast forward 2 or 3 episodes, it didn't matter. What
Yeah.
was the point of it?
Yeah, and some of that is because they literally do just fast forward in the next couple episodes. Like you get a couple of like year time skips, where it's just like, okay, the next year they're doing the whatever, but now they're on Gorman.
Yeah, and I would argue there was a couple more relationships where I'm like, what was the point of this? Like Cyril and whatever the blonde woman's name is, I can't remember, but
Deidre.
Deidre, the two ISB. You know, the whole scene when they're like sitting with the mother at the dinner table. I'm like, why are we wasting time on this? You know what I mean? And I could see maybe that was their way to try to get the characters in the right spots, like where they needed to be to kind of keep the plot going. So I have respect to it in a sense now that the season's over. But I still look back, I'm like, man, they wasted a lot of time on some of this relationship drama that probably didn't need to happen. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Colin?
Well, I mean, I hear what you're saying. In some aspects, I agree with you. Like, if you spend too much time building character development, that can get played out, and then therefore you start to lose interest or you start to get bored, whatever the case may be. But I think they spent just the right amount of time building those character relationships up with, like a Surreal and his mom Edie, or Surreal and Dedra, or Bix and Cassian, or Wellman and Cassian, or Luthen, and so on. So they have to build these relationships because obviously, like as you go forward into the season, we do get some time jumps, kind of like you do in freaking House of Dragon or whatever. And people are like, "Oh, yeah." I think I was even like, "Dude, I'm kind of confused by this time jump shit." Like some characters are literally staying the same, but they switch actresses or actors in these other episodes, and so I kind of get confused, that kind of thing. But that didn't happen in this show. They have to build these relationships so that we can learn where they're going into the series. Like we have to see the Bix and Cassian relationship kind of basically unfold essentially because, he wants to stay with her and leave the rebellion, but she doesn't want him to leave the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
And then later on, we find out some crazy news, which I have a theory, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Like
But
we do
Ooh.
get the idea that she recognizes that he like the rebellion needs Cassian. Like it's very obvious that they need Cassian.
yeah,
So like she recognizes that and it's like, okay, if the rebellion's going to have a chance in a world that doesn't know that Luke Skywalker exists somewhere on a random desert planet, that somebody has to try to get this misfits into a position where they could actually win.
Mhm.
And that's like Cassian and Luthen.
Yeah. I guess just taking just if we if I may on this relationship building kind of drama, I would agree that they did some of them a lot better than others.
Sure.
Like for example, the Luthen and what's his assistant's name? Is it Clea?
Clea.
Clea. Like I thought that relationship was like brilliant. So later on in the season, they had an episode where they kind of show like where they met and the backstory of it all. But to me, it was so tightly linked to the rebellion and like who they are and why that they are. Where some of the other ones, I'm like, who cares? Like why we spend so much time on this wedding? Who cares? And I do agree with you, Cassie and Bix. Like, yeah, they get a little bit closer of explaining, and there's probably more to that story. But I don't know. I'd be curious on
I mean,
what other people's thoughts are. But at the
yeah,
first few episodes, I was just like, it seemed like a missed opportunity. It was too much time on like some relationship drama for me.
I mean, obviously we see Bix like going through some PTSD there, because as we recall from season one, she ends up being taken and basically tortured. And then
Mm-hmm.
we get to season two, and we see that had
Like, what's the
take
next step up from
that
torture that's even more traumatizing?
yeah, like clearly
Assault.
there's some PTSD and sexual assault, right? That later happens in was that episode one or two?
3
3, I
in
think.
season 2.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. And so like add that on to like her PTSD, like all that shit is just building up. And so like when she tries to freaking like go to sleep and rest because she's obviously trying to assist Cassian with what he needs to do for the rebellion and her do her part, um, she's having these nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
And she's trying to do what she's got to do to take care of that, and then we see she's kind of what like doing some like kind of drug or something like that. I don't remember what that was exactly, but it was something a little sketch, I think. But essentially, like she basically needed a distraction from it all. And so that's why Luthen came to check up on her that one particular episode to see where she was at, essentially, not to air quotes like potentially give her an errand or something to do, but like actually check up on her because he's not dumb, he's smart. He has spies everywhere, or friends everywhere, right?
Yes.
And so that was essentially why he came, is to actually just check up on her.
Yeah, because I think at that point they're just hanging out on Coruscant, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just doing kind of odd jobs for Luthen, more or less.
Yeah, yeah, and we know that Jake gets bored on Coruscant, so we should probably move on with this
Yes,
conversation.
but they
I have
we
after watching the rest of the season, I have a little more respect for it. But
Oh wow.
I still,
How the turntables have tided.
I don't know.
yes,
We can march on though.
but okay. But we do get our big time skip there, and we get more talk about Gorman and Palmo, like the capital city or whatever,
Palma, yeah.
and all the stuff that's going on there.
Did you guys get like a French vibe from Gorman?
Um,
Was that the inspiration? Was like
yes.
Paris?
So there was a French inspiration. It was actually a made up language. They made that all up. But there was French inspiration, and there's something else in there as well. I want to say it was something like Shakespearean or something like that. I saw some reel or something about it, and I thought that was really interesting. But yes, it is a fictional language, and there was some French influence for sure.
Okay. But speaking of having friends everywhere, this is where I guess some of the more spy action like starts to like kick in because now they're worried about people finding out about the different bugs that have been planted in the uh, antique collection, if I recall.
Yeah, yeah.
So we do get to see what goes on there. We do see Saul show up,
Yeah, that's cool.
uh, and then a handful of people get killed in the crossfire because they always do.
Hmm.
Well, obviously, Saul was he's been in the rebellion. If you ever watch Clone Wars, Jake, you'll figure out. Well, actually, also Rebels too,
It'd be more rebels than anything, but
right? You'll see that he kind of like grew up into the rebellion essentially,
yeah.
and him and his sister, I forget what his sister's name was, but they were really close, and so defending their home world, she ends up getting killed.
I didn't know Saul had a addiction going on too.
Yeah, so that was the thing that I like since Rogue One came out, like I was just wondering like is he just freaking like falling apart, getting old? That's the way of like having like emergency oxygen or something like that. Like
That's what I
he
thought
has
too.
asthma or something like that. It was never explained and I tried to figure out nobody had an answer until this season came out.
Yeah, I had to research it as well. I watched this scene 2 or 3 times. I'm like, I'm a little confused on what they're trying to tell me here. And then afterwards I googled it and it was basically like, well, I was just trying to portray his like radical side, right? But he kind of takes things to extremes, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh, well, that makes sense.
If it wasn't for his sister dying, I don't think he would have ever gone to that, like you said, radical side. I think he would have stayed uh, in line with that. I don't know, Luke Skywalker line, if you will. I don't know, however you want to explain that.
It is really cool to see the first 4 or 5 episodes, including Saul. You kind of see all the different rebel factions, and you don't really think about it. Like you're always just so used to Star Wars. It's like you have the Empire and you got the rebels. But there was this huge chunk of time where there was just different groups of rebels, and it took them forever to band together to kind of have a common enemy, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it wasn't even necessarily that they all banded together. It's just that one group was more successful than others, and one group happened to have a Jedi on their side.
Because the first 2 episodes when they're on Yavin 4, spoiler,
Yeah,
I was confused on that too. I'm like, who are these people? Why do they hate each other? Why are they fighting? Why is Cassian in the middle? But then later on, as I mentioned, like as the season
there's just
continues,
different pockets.
you just learn so much more. You're like, oh, all right, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think they even bring it up in the episode where it's like these people are nowhere near as coordinated that they need to be if they want to accomplish anything.
nope.
So that gets brought up. Uh, but then I guess we hit like the midpoint, uh, where everything starts to really kick off, where all the ratings, like I wrote the ratings down like past episode 4, everything is above an 8.2. Like that's crazy. Like that is incredibly hard to do. A, just on the internet because people like to troll, but then B, actually have the content to back that up.
The second half of the season, or the second 2/3 of it, whatever it is, was great. I loved it. I thought it was awesome. So internet is correct for once.
Yeah. But we see that Cassian, basically what we just talked about, acknowledges that these Gorman rebels are just a bunch of idiots and are not prepared for anything, and goes to.
No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm
Oh,
not.
okay, sorry, I saw a head shake. Then was basically just kind of goes to Luthen to try to figure out what they need to do next because it doesn't look like Gorman's going to be the way to go. But we get some classic Luthen lines. And from there, we also see that Vel and Cinta get back involved together. They kind of rekindle all of that.
For a short minute, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for a short minute, mostly because Cinta ends up dying pretty quickly after that point.
Question. Obviously, Luthen set that up, right?
I imagine so, yeah.
Do you think that maybe he did that on purpose so that he knew one of them was going to die?
I don't think so. Do you?
That crossed my mind. That's why I'm asking right now. Like,
So you-
no, I'm not saying I believe that. The thought had crossed my mind because, like, he is that, like, he has that, like,
He is
gift of,
manipulative.
like, foresight, kind of, you know what I mean? He's smart. Luthen's smart.
Yes.
He plays that, like, giddy kind of,
I think Cinta
sells
was like,
antiquities kind of guy, but, like, he doesn't. That's all up front, obviously. He's a smart dude. He can play chess, the long game of chess, and see like several moves ahead.
Yeah.
He's that type of guy. So I can see that.
I could see it. I agree with you. Luthen definitely has a guy where he views individuals as assets, right? And when they get distracted by something, he's like, "Well, I need to remove that distraction, so because I need you to do X, Y, Z now." You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
I
Granted,
don't think that's a good example of it, but I see where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, that being said, I don't think he planned for basically the blaster to misfire.
No, no, no.
I chalked her death up as like another way that the rebellion's not ready. Like they're making stupid mistakes.
Sure.
How I
Yeah.
chalked that scene up to be.
But we
Yes,
go ahead.
but more so that particular group, the Gorman group, not
Yeah.
the rebellion. I mean, the rebellion, yes, in a way.
The Gorman
Essentially, as a
Rebellion.
whole,
Yeah.
was not ready at that point. I agree. But
Yeah,
that particular Gorman group, that definitely showed that they were not ready to do any kind. And plus, the leader of the group was a pacifist anyway, and that's why I thought it was remarkably wild. We'll talk about that particular episode later. Um, but it seemed fitting for what happens
I
with that.
I took it as a way for the writers of the series to show the evolution of the rebellion. And they used Gorman as like a stepping stone. And
Sure.
they're getting motivated, they're getting a little bit better, they're getting a little more organized, but they're still making really dumb mistakes compared to some of these other players like Bell or Luthen or that have been in it a little bit
Yeah,
longer.
so that's why they were
It's how I
inserted, is
interpret it.
to
People have
I
different
think that's
opinions, but
kind
the
of
correct way to
lead
view
them
it.
in
Yeah.
that direction.
I do agree with you, Colin, that Luthen has uh, that aspect to him where
Yeah.
he used different things as a distraction. He's like, all right, I really need you back in the game. So I need to remove this distraction for you, maybe even behind your back kind of thing.
Sure.
Which he kind of is with Biggs, right?
A little bit. Like I would have liked to think that Luthen recognizes that for Cassian, to keep doing what he's doing, Binks needs to be around in some capacity, either on a planet somewhere where Cassian doesn't want anything to happen to her, or directly next to him because they're doing like the same sort of operation.
Yeah.
Like there's ways to get people to do what you want them to do without being inherently like violent or evil.
Or
Might be
just
conniving
or just a dick about it.
or a dick about it, sure.
Speaking of Bix, she finally gets her revenge.
Oh yeah,
She
man, that
really-
was some gnarly stuff. It's the sanctifies too. That's what we call poetic.
That's right. That's right.
That
man.
was poetic justice. I loved that scene. It was super freaking cool.
Yep.
The one thing that I sort of understand but don't is the fact that after she leaves the room and leaves that headset on, why why blow that why blow it up? Because like I would have just like left him under it and just like jammed the door so no one could unlock it from the other side. So he literally is going to be in that state forever. You know what I mean? So like this is my revenge. Unless like there's a chance that maybe somebody were to unlock it, maybe they had talked about it or something like that. Like, what if he gets out, then he's gonna come back for you? Sure, but like that would have been my mindset about it. But
Yeah, I see
the
what you're saying.
whole thing about it exploding, sure, is for theatricals and dramatic effect. Sure, I get that, and it was cool
Yeah.
seeing them walk off like that.
That was one of the trailer shots, if I recall.
It was,
Yeah.
it was, yeah. Yeah.
But yeah,
But when she's walking solo and you see that guard come right at her, is that the same shot essentially? And then Cassian comes in
Mhm.
shortly thereafter, like she just shoots him.
Yeah, like we're not dealing with this. Just die.
Yeah, I thought that was kind of funny. But no, that was a really cool shot for sure. Loved it.
Yeah. Uh, then we get our second or third time jump right after that. Another year later. Now I guess they are formally on Yavin 4, doing their stuff there.
It was so cool. It was what was it, episode 2? And Andor leaves the planet, so you
Mhm.
kind of see those old temples. I was like, why does that look so familiar to me? And I had to Google it, and I was like, oh, that's going to be the future rebel planet.
Yeah, yeah.
The military base.
Yeah, you see the when there is that aerial shot, you can see the difference if you go back to A New Hope and you compare that shot to what's in Andor season 2. You can
It's
see
all just like up-res.
yeah, the
It's
veg
more or less the same footage. It's just up-res.
yeah. It's pretty cool though.
Yeah. But we do get some more interactions with them now on Yavin 4. But now we have, I guess, Daedra, or
Deidre.
Deidre, doing even more with the stuff going on with Gorman, which they've kind of have at this point acknowledged that they're just trying to mine the planet out for the different stuff, for the firing lasers, for the Death Star. Right?
But that's all hush hush
That's all hush hush.
and rumors. And that's what all that has been about is nobody really knows what's going on. And they just see that a building is being erected essentially right in front of a memorial where freaking Moff Tarkin of all freaking people killed hundreds of freaking Gormans
Oh yeah,
just for shits and giggles.
just for giggles. But we also see that in the that follow up that now the Empire even more so is like really pushing that this rebel group is just like a bunch of terrorists
Yeah.
Bunch of agitators trying to go against the peace, right?
Some serious propaganda.
Propaganda. This is our propaganda episode. This is the episode that feels most like a kind of like a bumper, like, or maybe not a bumper, but just kind of like a in between episode where nothing like really happens, but we do, I guess,
We're
get some.
leading up to it.
Where yeah, we get Biggs that talks to a Force user, and she's told that hey, Cassian's a vital part of the rebellion. Like, well, we all know this, because Rebel One exists, but the season is named after him, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just like reconfirming, I guess, to Biggs, the character in universe, that oh hey, Cassian is like important. We can't really tie him down to any one particular person.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to help out the galaxy.
Yeah. I thought it was kind of cool. I feel like it was kind of their way of tying in the Force a little bit as well. Get a little Star Wars.
It
Force
was
going
it
on.
was it was it was a nod. It wasn't
nod.
quite an Easter egg. It was just more of a nod.
A nod.
Sure.
I liked it. I don't know. I thought it was kind of cool.
I appreciated it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we're on Yavin. There's
Right.
about to be a Jedi on that planet.
Eventually, in about 2 years, I think, from that point. Either way. Then we get what is the highest rated episode of the entire season at a 9.8, which is Who Are You?
Let's
Is that the
go.
Is that the protest one?
That's the protest episode, baby.
Let's go.
I don't blame 'em. It was a good episode.
So, yeah, big protest going on in Palmo, and that goes about as well as you think it does.
Yeah.
Which in Star Wars means there's a lot of dead people by the end of it.
Man, the Empire is just ruthless.
Oh yeah,
Like Andor did a really good job portraying just like the ins and outs, like the political side of it all, just like how ruthless,
how awful these people actually are.
and not even to their subjugated constituents, right? Like to their own people. Like you see those trainees,
Mm-hmm.
the Imperial like trainees go there, like yeah, go out there, just and like they knew for
Well,
they
that
knew-
was
they
done
knew it
on
was
purpose.
I know. I was like, hey, God, man.
Yeah. I just want to say, in kind of a horrible, horrible joke, that these stormtroopers have the best aim I have ever seen out of a stormtrooper. It's kind of upsetting that
Because they're
their
still in
training, their training went down so low.
Well, they're still in training, right? So that's why
I get it's fresh in their mind.
No, I was saying the opposite. So they're still training to be a stormtrooper. So their aim was still too good, so they had to get worse to become.
Okay, I see where you're going now. But yes, we see the protest go and do its thing. They put all of the troopers there that are not experienced with riots to be the ones in control of the riot. So when the riot actually happens, they're the ones to freak out and open fire. That's what happens. We see Colin's doing the finger point. Where do you want to go with that?
Well, technically it was a sniper.
Sniper, sure.
Sniper started the riot.
Sniper started first, but whichever.
But nobody, like, there's so many freaking people you wouldn't be able to tell.
You couldn't tell, man.
Essentially what everybody saw somebody get shot, but they weren't entirely sure who did it. And then it just came to make more sense that one of the riot Imperial guys ends up shooting that guy on that pole. And so that basically confirmed to all the Gormans, like, oh, somebody did get shot. Oh shit, we just saw this Imperial shoot another person. They definitely started it. And so that was the whole point of that one cat being brought in, because he takes care of things, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the whole point of them all being there, was to freaking, basically kill off all the Gormans and
No
then
witnesses.
mine this freaking planet.
Yep.
The calcite, right? Is that what it's called? Whatever freaking mineral is called. Whatever.
Couldn't remember. There's a couple that are brought up later in like an episode name, which might have.
But anyway, yeah, dude, that
But-
entire scene was, like you all are saying, was wild.
It was wild. The the ones that try to run even get shot down by either the troopers or by the droids that get
The
dispatched. The
KX.
KX enforcers.
Yep.
This is where we see one of them get like knocked out. Well, I guess that's the next episode. But Cassian takes one of these robots and it becomes the Rogue One droid that everybody knows and loves.
Yeah, we get
Well,
K2.
let's step back. We're jumping ahead a little bit.
Yeah, I did.
Cassian was there because he heard that Deidre was going to be there and to take her out essentially. So you see him basically get out his laser rifle, if you will, and kind of like snipe from down by the cafe and all that shit. But he was never able to get a clear shot because either she was behind glass, or there was something of a
Cyril
distraction.
gets involved.
Yeah, and so that's when Cyril gets involved and he freaking confronts her, right? And wants to know how long she's been known about this, and she basically more or less confessed her love for him ish. Like we can go home, we can be together, that kind of thing.
And then he gets shot by the Gorman Rebel, by the rebel leader.
Well, I mean, in the Revelation defense, he was beating up
See,
Andor, but
his particular story, I forget what the leader and the father's name was.
Caro. Either way.
I think so.
Whatever. His story, I kind of do wish that they touched a little more on, because the way they went about it was, we see that he is wanting his people to, be free of all this crap. They freaking are bringing more and more Imperials onto his planet. And he obviously doesn't like it and he wants to do something about it, but he wants to go about it in a political way, but which that would have made Jake mad, because with it's more politics that's going to be involved and it's going to drag out the story even longer.
Yes.
But
Rebellion.
we want more death, we want more bombs, lightsabers. So
Yeah.
it was kind of fun, like watching him struggle and take one or two steps forward, but then have to take like 6 steps back.
Mhm.
But then we get to that point where the riots then do start, and that's when Cyril finds Cassian in this crowd and freaking tackles him. They get in a little bit of a fisticuff, and then that's when he comes in and basically saves Cassian's life by shooting him in the head.
Yep.
And so, like, this pacifist guy is the one to go like a complete 180 and shoot this dude. Like, I don't know if y'all picked up on that, but I like that. I thought that was crazy.
Oh yeah. That's definitely. It's not quite as like shocking as the Daredevil White Tiger just getting like point blank shot, but it has that same sort of impact where it kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like you weren't expecting it to be him behind the trigger.
Right. But anyway, guess. While freaking Cassie and Wilman are escaping the riots, one of the KX units is coming towards Cassian and he's like freaking just shooting at him, and then all of a sudden the freaking unit gets or the droid, I keep saying unit, he gets freaking ran over by a freaking car, hover car, whatever you want, truck, something,
Sure.
whatever,
A vehicle of some.
a vehicle of some sort, and it freaking cuts it in half essentially, and he takes that droid for himself to take back to Yavin 4. But in that scene when he's driving it and you see it in the back, you see Cassian shed a tear.
Yeah. Because Cassian definitely wanted things on Gorman to go a different way, but because of the Empire being the Empire, and I guess the nature of how the rebellion has to operate, this was the outcome that happened. It was somewhat out of his control, even though he was one of the handful of people sniping.
Yeah, that's true.
So he is kind of more or less he is kind of responsible for all of these people being dead in a backwards way. But if we're done with the best episode, then we can go on to what is the second best episode, which is 9.7, which is the Welcome to the Rebellion.
Yeah.
So we get Mothma just formally speaking out and basically saying it's like, look, this empire is rotten to the core. The emperor is a dickbag, and you know, welcome to the rebellion. And she leaves because she needs to. We see
I
the
love
Organas show up, so cool.
I love this episode. Love everything about it. I love the speech. I love like the plotting. I love Luthen's kind of behind the scenes, like he's still getting information. Like you don't know who to trust, and he's like, "Well, don't trust your own security team. Send Andor," but Mothma doesn't really know it. I loved everything about this episode. It was so much fun to watch.
Yeah. We see them bicker about the choice to have Tay killed in the previous episodes. We again we see Organa kind of doing his thing before they blow his planet up, and a couple more movies later. But we have them deal with I guess, the spy within the security detail. Then we see more stuff with the I guess just more stuff with Cassian and Bix too, like where they've kind of decided that they want to, you know, kind of let the rebellion unfold on their own at this point, kind of, sort of. Like that's the part that seems kind of weird after they've played up like, oh, you're so important to the rebellion. Then Cassian's the one that kind of has the cold feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was cold feet. I think he was just tired.
Tired, yeah. That might be a better word for it. He's just tired. Like it is a lot trying to fight an empire, believe it or not.
But Bix leaves, and we finally get a new ally to join the rebellion. Who do we get, Kenny?
Oh,
Little droid.
little droid, the K2.
K2.
Yeah.
K2 shows up.
Yeah, they put together K2.
I was wondering the entire season when K2 was going to show up. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
But I was like, how are they going to do it?
I mean, it wouldn't be Star Wars if they didn't have a marketable droid. But then we're kind of winding down, I guess, for the lack of a better word, because I would argue that the massacre and the riots that happened on Gorman is like the big climax. But then I guess our next big one that we would have, I guess, would be Luthen dying and
Well,
everything going on there.
before we get there, I'm curious on your all's thought, and Colin, you can help me with. Why did he have to kill his own agent? Is it Lonnie?
Yeah.
Why did he have to die?
Because basically,
Just to kill loose end?
yeah, for the most part, yes, they basically get rid of the loose end because they were already catching on to him since he was logged into Deidre's shit for
Yeah.
what are you saying, like 3 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
Krennic even mentioned it by like, yeah, it was 3 hours. So like they were catching on to him anyway. So like stated over and over again, they've caught on to me. I need to get out of here. And I was like, okay, well, I can either get you out of here or I can freaking
Or I can kill
end
you.
your suffering, essentially. And so, he wasn't really of vital importance at all. So, like, even if he did help him escape, who knows if he would have got seen in public and caught or something, and then have to, you know, confess things that the rebellion is doing that he's learned or something to that effect. So, like, there's no telling. So like he wasn't really that important of a character anyway. I don't think. I didn't mind his character. I enjoyed his character, but to string him along for the rest of the season or bring him into any other series for that matter. I don't think there would have been a good point.
No, but
Yeah. Still felt bad for him.
yeah. After that point, we also see that Luthen begins destroying all the evidence.
He gets cut. Luthen gets cut.
Luthen gets caught and tries to commit suicide so that he doesn't, potentially get like information tortured out of him.
Yeah.
So he tries to off himself. Then they put him on life support, and that's when Clella,
Clay.
Clay. I'm terrible with these names today. Basically, just takes him off the life support, and
Rough, man.
like just a little bit before that, we see like I guess the initial point of their meeting. I guess how they found each other is like Luthen having the flashback where his unit, when he was an Imperial officer, just like wiped out her town.
Mhm.
And she was like just a random kid survivor, and he adopts her as like a daughter.
Mhm.
So we see some of that come into play where it's just like, oh, so now you're finally going to treat me like a daughter after all of these years, and you want me to kill you.
Did you notice that they went back to Naboo
Hmm.
They did, didn't they?
They
when the
went back to
bridge
Naboo.
exploded and he was teaching her not to react or anything like that? That was Naboo.
Oh yeah, I didn't pick up on that, but yeah.
So that was a good little nod.
That's a fun name.
I'm glad they decided, because the last time we were on Naboo, I guess, was Revenge of the Sith for Padme's funeral.
Technically, because
Or,
in
well,
A
the
New
first
Hope
time.
it gets blown up. No, that's Alderaan that gets
No,
blown
that's
up.
Alderaan.
Never mind. Getting my planets
No,
mixed up.
no, no. So yeah, Padme's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, but it's good to see that that whole monologue or dialogue or whatever between those two, because she's young and impressionable and she wants to learn, but she's got this fight in her and she just wants to freaking lash out essentially, but he's trying to, like, all right, learn patience, use this angst and anger and frustration that you have against the emperor and imperials and all that shit, but use it to your advantage essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So, learning all that, I think Luthen and I would have gotten along great.
He's a boss, man.
Sure. But then we see that Andor and crew are tasked with retrieving the body. So that goes surprisingly well, honestly.
Oh, you mean like Andor and K2 and Wilson going back to get Clea?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a cool episode too.
Yeah, because at this point we are like very much winding down.
And I liked the good thing about that episode, I liked is it kind of reiterated that the rebellion's still slightly scattered. Or, it's finally come together, but they have some old divisions that they need to figure out. So you can tell like the rebels on Yavin don't necessarily get along with
Luthen.
Luthen and
Yeah.
Clea. And they even say, even Clea's like, where are we going? And they're like, Yavin. And she's like, I can't go to Yavin. They hate me there. So like, it's like, well, it's like, I thought everyone was on the same team, but
Right.
We're all friends here.
Yeah. Uh
She's been on Coruscant for so freaking long, so it would make sense that she wants to go off and do her own thing. I mean, that's basically what she's been doing for most of her life since she was a like 10, 12, 13-year-old kid, along with this freaking 60-year-old guy. She's just been hanging out with him, so it would make sense that she didn't want to go. But I'm glad she did, because she ran into some old friends. What's Mon's cousin's name? I forget what her name was.
Not Vel, is it? Is that her cousin or
Vel.
sister?
or
Vel.
Vel
The
or Mon. I
cousins?
don't
Their
remember.
cousin, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that was good little good good good.
Good little bit.
Yeah.
But then at the end of that particular episode, we see K2 just come in and just completely wipe out Hertz squad and his team. But then we do get
The one
Clea being
thing
kind
I
of
will say there, it was a little annoying that there was like only one squad available. That was a little hard to believe.
hard to believe they couldn't round up an extra 2 or 3.
Yeah, you know what I mean? They never really was.
Well,
So
K2 needs to survive till
I
to
know.
Rogue
I
One.
know.
That's the problem with him is that he exists in another thing, so nothing's going to happen to him because he has to have everything happen to him later.
I know. I know.
But yeah, we get to I guess our last episode, and we see all of them
Basically,
interact.
yeah, basically a lead into Rogue One, basically.
hmm Uh, th- it becomes clearly evident at this point that none of them really trust Luton, or Luthen. Uh, but Mon Mothma is willing to kind of listen because she recognizes that we're going to need all the help we can get, which is true. Uh, so from there, we do kind of get more interactions with, I guess, the rebels being a bit more human. We see them kind of like raise a toast to their fallen comrades. We see Deidre uh, get shipped off to a prison planet to work on Death Star
I
parts.
think it's the same one that Andor was in season 1. You think it was?
It's implied, but I don't think it's the same, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I kind of felt bad for her. I don't know why, but she was a evil character. But
But
She was not a
hold
nice
on.
person.
I don't know like why we're I guess I'm just I enjoyed certain parts more than you all did, or maybe we're just deciding to skip it because it's not that important. I don't know where you're all set at, but
Um,
let's go back to the toast.
Okay, we can go back to the toast.
I like to.
These are the only 2 survivors of the Aldani attack, or
Mhm.
how Vel says Donnie, and then Diego Luna or Cassian ends up saying Aldani, right? Those are the only 2 that survived, and the fact that they're in a room together drinking to air quotes the fallen. They go back and forth and name some, cities, planets, whatever, and then they mention some individuals that, you may or may not remember, but particular ones that do stand out. Cassian saying Senta,
Mhm.
and then Vel stating, his mom and a bunch of other shit. Like, I don't know. To me, I thought that was like kind of like a not emotional, but an emotional moment. Like, I wish there were more emotions showed, but I guess since they're just so like closed off themselves from all the PTSD and shit and that kind of thing, and the shit that they've themselves have been through. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never really thought about it. You bring up a good point. I never really thought about that scene too much. It's not that I disrespected it. I didn't really view it like that. I guess the last episode I was so fixated on like Rogue One and how they're gonna lead into it. I was so excited about
Yeah.
that. So I did kind of miss them.
Come on, guys. You're supposed to enjoy the journey and pick up on this shit. And not just freaking, oh, when are they gonna freaking bring in a lightsaber and freaking do some freaking
Do some cool flip tricks.
General Grievous freaking 3 arms lightsabers, cut everybody's fucking head off and shit like that. No, enjoy the ride. Listen to the dialogue. Listen to Mon Mothma's speech and freaking
Speech.
take in those literal last words, whichever monster screams the freaking loudest. Emperor Palpatine. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I've freaking got shivers down my spine because it was hinted at in Rebels that the secret cargo episode or whatever it was freaking called, they wouldn't go to go pick her up and then take her to Yavin 4.
Hmm.
That's essentially how she got there. Is
She's the cargo.
She's the cargo. Because, yeah. And it wasn't Cassian that took her, but he ended up getting his own ride. So, like, watch that episode. You're not going to watch it. Why am I talking to you? You probably haven't even started freaking any of that shit.
I have not.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's that kind of stuff that you're able to enjoy more because hey, this happened in this particular episode and they're bringing it back up because it's important. It's relevant. And so that's the reason why I'm a fan of this universe is because they take the time to go back and, rope it all in together.
Good point.
Sure.
Good point.
That speech.
It was good.
It was really
good.
good.
Like honestly, out of this whole series so far, there's 2 monologues that I've really enjoyed. And that's freaking Luthen's speech in that freaking little elevator shaft area, you know what I'm talking about in
Yeah.
season 1. That
They
was
go back to that elevator quite a few times.
yeah. I think that's just their secret spot that they meet to do shit. And then obviously Mon Mothma's speech. And God,
Yeah.
it freaking dude, I want to read it. Can I read it?
I mean, if you got it pulled up, I don't mind.
We'll make it into a short.
Yeah, we'll do that.
All right. So
Go ahead.
before we wrap things up, I want to know what the theory is about the baby, Bix's baby.
So at the very end, we see Bix going into is that wheat?
A wheat field.
Yeah,
It's the
Yeah.
same planet from before. Whatever that. I don't know. We talked about it earlier.
yeah, whatever that planet was that they're in the beginning. So the theory is that child is fuck, what's the character's name?
Uh oh. Yoda.
No, fuck.
I was under the impression it was Cassian's, but
It is.
No, it is
kid.
Cassian's who the baby is.
He's the baby daddy.
The baby is
oh, like who the kid actually is?
Yeah. So Cassian knocked up Bix.
Right. We
They
get that.
show Bix at the very end, and Colin has a theory of who the baby is. Or who the baby
Okay.
grows up to be, I guess.
Poe Dameron.
Oh, Poe. Of course, it'd be fucking Poe.
Right.
There's a theory, and I'm not even gonna try and relay what that theory I saw online was, but I'm not against it.
It's because the two actors vaguely
Joe-
look like each other.
Because Kilroy, his name's Joe or whatever the fuck his name is. What's his name? Kilroy something rather.
I can look it up real quick. Continue.
He did not say what the baby's name was or if they even came up with a name. But then I saw in a different reel because it was Diego and the actress that played Bix, they were asked what the baby's name was and she reacted like she knew. But then she kind of like, oh, actually, I don't know. So I think there is a plausibility that they do know who that baby is, but I don't think, because of Disney, they're not able to fucking disclose that kind of shit. Makes sense. Keeps us in suspense. I support that 100% because I hate spoilers, but at the same time, I gotta know.
I know. I
Poe
like
would
it.
be about the right age
I
by
like
the
it.
time that
Right,
happens.
because Rise of
Yeah.
Skywalker, well, I guess it's before that. But, whatever. Whenever those 3 movies come out and where they stand in the timeline.
Yeah.
I like it, man. I like it.
Okay.
I'm not the first one to say it, but I'm the first one to say it on this podcast. So
There you go. That counts.
We'll see here in a couple of years what happens with that.
Sure. Yeah. From there, I guess we can kind of wrap it up a little bit. Unless you all have any other closing thoughts.
No, I love the series. Sad to see it go. I guess there's a small part of me that appreciates that they only did it in 2 seasons. They didn't kind of drag it out. I think it kind of makes it even better. Although, man, I really like Luthen's character.
Hmm?
So, but
Yeah.
great work. I mean, it was fun watch for sure.
But yeah. Colin, you got any closing thoughts? You got something.
I have one thing.
Okay.
What was your all's one? You won. What was your all's one favorite moment from the entire series?
Oh man, put me on the spot.
That was kind of the point.
Yeah.
Get to have
I'll
one.
go first. I think I liked K2 just coming in and just like wiping the floor with everybody, having that being like the opening moments for that episode.
Sure.
Because that's just like, okay, y'all, like, just like butchered like an entire town on Mothman. We're going to send a robot to do that same stuff to you.
Yep.
And that's more or less what happened.
I liked Mothman's speech, and I liked her, the whole speech and her whole like kind of escape,
Hmm.
like that whole.
That was a good sequence. Yeah.
All right, my turn.
Okay.
And y'all are going to agree with me 100%. My favorite moment, which you would think would be the monologue of Mon Mothma or Luthen. No, it was an action sequence when Luthen is being sucked in by that freaking giant ass ship with a huge ass satellite to bring him in, and he freaking escapes by launching those freaking um, grenades essentially at the satellite. It explodes, releases him, and he's freaking being followed by the TIE fighters in season 1. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And then he freaking, destroys a couple of the TIE fighters, and then freaking outside, he has these lasers, and he does that little spinny motion, and he
Yeah,
freaking cuts them all in half with the lasers. Do you remember that? The TIE fighters?
yeah,
That was sick.
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That was my favorite part. I'd probably describe that horribly, but everybody knows
No,
what I'm
that's
talking
fine.
about.
Luthen was my favorite character.
Well, Luthen was mine too. My final question for you two is: do you think that season 2 is better than season 1?
Yes.
Hmm. No.
Okay. We're at odds.
Wow. I don't even
What
want
about
to
you,
know.
Kenny? What about you?
Uh,
It's
the-
a tough question.
the 2 seasons went for 2 different vibes.
Yeah, it's a tough question.
So I like season 2, I think, better as a whole, but I like the approach that season 1 had probably better. Thematically, at least.
It's a toughie. I don't know. Like, it's not the hill I would die on, but to give you an answer, I think one it edges out slightly for me.
I'm sticking with my answer.
Okay. You didn't even let me finish the question.
Finish your question.
No, like when I was saying it the first time, you're like, yes.
Okay. Try to do whatever you got to do.
Okay.
I've said what I need to say.
Alrighty.
Alrighty.
Colin, where can the people find us?
My lovely viewers and listeners, you can find us on the Facebook, Instagram, all the platforms that we have for our podcast. Give us a like, give us a follow. If you have any suggestions on future episodes or if you have any questions, hit us up in that DMs. Let us know.
Throw something down in the comments, even. No.
Yep. Look forward to hearing from you. But than that, we'll see you all next time.
See you,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.